All right, this is your friend Dave Coughlin with Entry Level Escape, and today we're going to do some entry level escape complimentary tips. So these are tips to help drive your complementary skills. Today I'm going to teach you how to make Monopoly cards. Now, in my bigger course, Persuasion, PowerPoint, and Presentation, I mentioned Monopoly cards and I provide a verbal overview on how to create them. What I wanted to do is create a quick tutorial to show you how to create them in PowerPoint today. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to teach you how to make a basic one, and I'm going to teach you how to make a fancy one. So I'm going to get a blank slide here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the basic Monopoly cards. I'm going to go to my quick access toolbar, and I'm going to go to shape, and I'm going to grab a rectangle. Real simple. Okay, I'm just going to make a rectangle. Nothing too fancy, nothing too special. Basic rectangle. Then what I'm going to do to make my life easier is I'm going to hold down Control and Shift. I'm going to click on my rectangle, and I'm going to drag. And you can see when I do that, it clones it. Now, the reason that this is so useful is because it keeps it directly underneath the original. That's what the shift is doing. And then the control clones it. When I clone it, they're exactly the same width. I could easily just go make a new rectangle object. All right, let's get rid of that guy over there. Over here, make a new rectangle object, and I can, try to make it the same size. PowerPoint does these nice little red dashed lines, but that's relying on the dashed lines and it's extra clicks. So why do that when I can just Control, Shift, click, and drag? Okay, now I've got two rectangles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin to build the Monopoly card. And these cards are named after the property cards in the game Monopoly. That's where it comes from. So now I've got two rectangle objects. They are touching. And they're both currently filled in. So now, it doesn't look like a Monopoly card, does it? Nope, doesn't look like one at all. So here's what I'm going to put. I'm going to put something here. I'll put, my header. Very creative, I know. And I'm going to leave that the way it is for now. Actually, I'm going to make it bold using Control B to make the font bold, just to make it stand out. And since the official color for entry level escape is this dark green color, I'm going to make it dark green. Okay, get a little bit closer. Now this bottom box is not the way I want it, right? I need a white background or a clear background. So you have a couple options here. So first what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you, white background, okay? Or you could go with no fill, and then there's no background. Okay. Or in the case of my default, which has that gray background, I can use eyedropper, and then it will pick up the gray from the background. So now I've got a box. I'm gonna put some text in here. So my header, maybe I'll put like, my point one, my point two, and my point three, something like that. Okay. I can't read it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it readable. First, I'm going to change the font color to this dark gray. It looks black, it's actually charcoal, very dark gray. Then I'm going to bring it to the top. Then I'm going to left align it. Then I'm going to bullet it. Okay, so what did I just do real quick? Okay, I made the font dark gray. I use this tool up here to put the font to the top. I use this button over here to put the text to the left. And then I use this button here to make the text bullets. Okay, not bad. You're in PowerPoint, you're going to use lots and lots of bullets, so might as well get used to it. All right, well, it's starting to get there. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click both of these objects, and I'm going to make the border a little heavier, maybe like a 2 1/4. See how that looks? Okay, try that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the border to match the color of that header box. So for me, that's that dark green color. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to do, and this is optional, but I think that it looks better. For this bottom box, I am going to make it have a dotted border. Okay. Then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to send it to the back. The reason I do that is this top border here, the top of the text box where I've got my point 1, 2, 3. You can see that dotted line. I don't find that aesthetic. When I put that behind the header, now the header dominates and the text box is behind it. And so, you know, part of the total border is dotted, part of the total border is solid. I personally think this is more aesthetic, but if you don't agree, you like nice solid lines, you can turn off your dashed line option, and that's a perfectly reasonable Monopoly card. Now, here's the thing about these Monopoly cards is that it's still two objects. So if I grab it, ooh, oh no, I tore off my header. That's not cool. So what you want to do, you want to have both of them. So hold down Control. Hold down that Control key. Click on the header. Click on the body. Okay, now they're separate objects. I can move them around. La, la, la. All right, perfectly fine. What happens if I resize them? Okay, left to right is fine, but top to bottom, ooh, that breaks my formatting. Okay, I don't like that. Don't like that one bit. Okay, so what do? Group them. So Control G groups them. Now they're a single object. Okay, it moves around. I'm clicking on one thing, they move together. Okay. If I stretch them sideways, it moves perfectly. But if I stretch them vertically, they stay together. You don't have that breaking of the format that we just saw before. So grouping your Monopoly card is the last step. This is a basic Monopoly card, and now when you group it, it becomes a single object, and so when you do that trick I taught you earlier, Control, Shift, Click, Drag, right? Control, Shift, Click, and Drag, watch what happens. The whole Monopoly card is copied. Now, let me give you a quick caution. When you have them grouped, I want to make this one have a blue theme. Whoops, that is not what I wanted. So what you can do is either click the specific object. So in this case, it would be just the header becomes blue. And then I do want the whole group to have that blue border though. So that's easy. That's one option that you can have. The other option, so let's take this guy down here. Let's say I want to make him that lime green color again. If I just click it naively, I end up with this terrible eyesore. I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to ungroup. So Control Shift G. Now they're ungrouped. So I just click into here and then I make it that lime green color. Then if I want to change the borders on both, I have to click them both separately using Control. There you go. So that's another way to do it. And I can always regroup them just as easily by just clicking them both by holding Control and then doing Control G, and now they're grouped again. Okay, so that is the basic Monopoly card tutorial. Now, for those of you that had a chance to see the full course, there's a advanced version or fancier version of these Monopoly cards. It's not that much more complicated, and I think they look pretty cool. And I actually got this from a young woman on my team. Her name is Minal, and she taught me how to make these. And I immediately saw them and said, oh, this is fantastic. I can't wait to use them myself. So I'm going to teach you how to do that right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a blank canvas. Now, if you want, you can delete them. Okay, but why do that when we can just make a new slide? So I'm going to hold down my Control key and press M as in Mike, get a new slide. Now here's how you make the fancy version of the Monopoly card. I'm going to take my rectangle object and I'm just going to throw one out there. Okay, we're going to make some edits to this. So let's just get one out there. And then I'm going to take another one. So Control Shift drag. Okay, make them touch. Perfect. Okay, so we got the basic shape. Now here's what I'm going to do. Now, this is more advanced, but it looks really cool when it's done. So I'm going to call out what I'm doing as I'm doing it. So that bottom one where I know my text is going to go, first I'm going to make it a lot taller and I'm going to make it a lot wider. Okay? Now you notice they're different sizes. We knew the text box was going to be taller, but now I've also made it wider, and you'll see where this is going in a moment. So I'm in here, and I'm going to get my text. So before I type anything, well, let me show you what. Never mind, I'm going to type a couple things. So I'm typing just some gibberish. Doesn't matter. Okay, I got my gibberish in there. Okay. I'm going to left align the gibberish. I'm going to then put it to the top, and I'll bulletize it. Okay, now it's bulleted. Okay, just the same as before. Everything's going great. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to use my default background. Okay, that light gray. You can use the eyedropper if you want. That's a cool trick. Okay. I'm going to change my font to gray, or that very dark gray, a charcoal color. Okay. And I'm done for now. Okay, so this is it's all looking pretty much the same. Now here's where we get the fancy part. I'm going to take this box. I'm going to hold down my shift key. Holding down shift means that when I move, it can only move in a straight line. I cannot do diagonals. I can't get sloppy. See? If I go back to where it was, so Control Z, okay? If I don't have the Shift key, I can move it anywhere I want, right? But it's a little sloppy, potentially sloppy, I should say that. So if I try to go left to right in a straight line, I'm at the mercy of my mouse's control, my dexterity, okay? But just Control Z to get it back there. If I hold down Shift, it will always move in a perfectly straight line. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it a little bit to the right. Not a ton, just a little bit. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the borders on both of these. So I'm using Control so that I can hold on to both of them. Make the borders a little bit thicker. So we're going to go with that 2 1/4 size again. Now I'm going to take my header box. So let's put some text in there. Let's call it fancy. Okay? We're going to make that bold, right? So Control B for bold, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this box and I'm going to click on it. Then I'm going to use my arrows in order to gently move it. Now it's moving behind the other box. So I'm going to bring to front. Now you can right click, bring to front, or you can use the quick access toolbar. What I want to do is I want to move it so that it's approximately centered on the border. Okay? It's already looking pretty fancy. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, well, wait a minute, Dave. Now I'm covering up my text. I know. We're going to fix that right now. I'm going to show you how to do it. So go back to your big box. Right click the big box. Format shape. Okay, so right click, format shape. Now I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to mean. I guess size and properties. I guess now that I'm seeing it in the hover, that the icon makes sense. And I'm going to go to text box. Okay, so I'm in size and properties, this icon here, and I'm going to go to text box. Text box lets you control the margin. And this is why I like to use shapes instead of just a regular text box, because these give you really, really good control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my top margin a bit. So there you go. I raised it to 0.03, excuse me, 0.3 inches. Now it fits. It looks fine. You could cut out the middleman, so to speak, and do align middle if you want. I find that you're sort of at the mercy of how much text you put in there if you end up filling up that box. So let's do middle, just to show you what it looks like. And I keep adding points. So say, it doesn't help me in the end, right? But let me turn that off and do align top. If I have a top margin of 0.3, which we just said looks great, if I come back into my box and it's just going to keep going. I had to make the box taller so it all fits, but I'm not moving as I type. So that's why I like keeping it aligned to the top and adjusting the margin. Hope that made sense. So now that I've adjusted the margin, everything's fine. Okay. And now to put some finishing touches on my box. So what I like to do for the fancy ones is, first of all, same color. Border should be the same color as the box itself. These guys, I think, strongly benefit from the dotted line. So in the last example, I said the dotted line was optional. I really believe these look tremendous with dotted lines. I mean, I'll clone it for you so you can see both next to each other. And I just don't, oops, over here. I just don't think you get the same kind of aesthetic. I'll just call it aesthetic overall that you would get from the, oh, they need to match the same color, but the same from that dotted line. Now, the blue is not exactly my favorite color for these, but if I want to very, very quickly pivot to our signature dark green, just to give you a sense of what that looks like, you can see it right there. And I really do think the dotted lines look just fantastic for this. It doesn't have to be the smallest dots either. You could use a slightly bigger dot. There's one. There's another one, right? This one's not too bad. I kind of like that. So this is your fancy Monopoly card. Okay. Now, what I'm not showing you here is how to use them, where to use them. That comes up later in the bigger course. Bigger course is about 4 hours long. This is just a guided tutorial on how to create those two beautiful objects. So you've got your basic Monopoly card, remember? It's two rectangle objects and then some configuration. And if you want to get fancy, again, it's just two rectangle objects with a little bit extra configuration, but then you get these really nice call out boxes. Group them, clone them, use them to your heart's content. There are very few situations where these things are not going to do exactly what you need them to, and then they're going to work fantastic for you. So with that, good luck to you as you get your complementary skills. PowerPoint being part of communication, communication being the universal complementary skills. Like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and stay tuned to entrylevelescape.com for more of this types of content. Thank you, and have a good one.